It was a little after midnight when Daniel finally turned off the highway, the rain pelting his windshield like nails. He'd been driving for 10 hours straight, somewhere between Kansas and nowhere. The plan was to reach Denver by sunrise, but exhaustion was clawing at his eyes. The radio, his only companion, had started picking up weird interference, static broken by whispers. At first, he blamed the storm, but when the voice murmured his name, clear as day, his hand froze on the dial. "Daniel, slow down." The voice was thin, metallic, almost childlike. His heart pounded. He flicked the radio off, and the car was instantly swallowed by silence. A few seconds later, the static returned on its own, soft, crackling, pulsing like a heartbeat. Daniel's old Ford didn't have Bluetooth or any fancy system that could glitch. This was pure analog, vintage AM/FM. He adjusted the tuner slightly, and through the static came a faint sob. Then a woman's voice, trembling, whispering, "Please stop him." The wipers squealed across the glass as he tried to focus on the road, drenched in fog. He thought maybe some emergency frequency was bleeding through. But then he heard something that made his stomach drop. "He's right behind you." Daniel's rearview mirror was nothing but black. Panic crept up his spine. He turned the headlights to high beam. Nothing but rain and mist. He laughed nervously, shaking his head. Maybe he was hallucinating from the long drive. He switched the radio off again, firmly this time. The silence returned, heavy and absolute. But a moment later, the static burst back. No power light on the console, no signal display, just noise. Then, layered under the hiss, came the same child's voice. "Why didn't you stop?" Daniel's throat tightened. "Stop what?" he whispered. His own voice sounded alien in the confined space. The static hissed louder, building to a shriek. The car engine sputtered and died. The headlights flickered once and went dark. Daniel coasted to a stop on the shoulder of the deserted road. His pulse hammered in his ears as he fumbled for his phone. No signal, not even a bar. When he looked up, the radio dial was glowing faintly, though the key wasn't in the ignition. The voice whispered again, but this time it was clearer. "You left us here, Daniel." His breath caught. He hadn't heard that name spoken that way since... No, that was impossible. That accident had been years ago, buried deep in the part of his mind he refused to visit. He reached for the door handle, desperate for air, but the locks clicked down on their own. Static flooded the car, sharp enough to make his teeth ache. Through the noise came fragments of screams, familiar screams. He squeezed his eyes shut, and memories crashed in. The rainy night, the broken bridge, the submerged car. His little sister's hand slipping from his as the current dragged her under. The news had called it an accident, but he'd walked away, alone. "I didn't mean to," he shouted, his voice cracking. The static softened, turning to faint breathing. Then, in a whisper that chilled his bones, "We know." A child's giggle echoed faintly from the back seat. Daniel spun around, but it was empty. Just the faint imprint of something wet on the seat, tiny footprints leading toward the radio. The smell of river water filled the cabin. He grabbed the ignition key and twisted. It wouldn't move. The radio dial turned on its own. the needle sliding back and forth until it stopped at a frequency with no station number. From the speakers came the sound of dripping water. Then, drive us home. His trembling hands found the gear shift. Against his will, his foot pressed the gas pedal. The engine roared back to life. The car lurched forward, headlights blazing through the storm. The steering wheel seemed to move on its own, guiding him down a narrow dirt road he didn't remember. The radio grew louder, voices overlapping, children laughing, crying, calling his name. "I'm sorry," he shouted, tears blurring his vision. The road ended at an old iron bridge, half collapsed, swallowed by water. He slammed the brakes, but the pedal sank uselessly to the floor. The car didn't stop. As he hurtled toward the black water, the radio went silent for the first time all night. Then, softly, "Now you can come with us." The car was found 3 days later, half submerged near the ruins of the bridge where Daniel's family had drowned 5 years earlier. Investigators noted the radio was still on, tuned to a dead frequency. Witnesses said at night, if you drive that stretch of highway, you can sometimes hear faint static. Then a voice whispering a name, always the same one, Daniel. Locals call it the static mile. No one stops there after midnight. And if your radio ever turns on by itself while driving through Kansas, no matter how curious you get, don't touch the dial.